Hey everybody, welcome to the Taste Like Somewhere podcast. I'm your host, Christy Brablick, and I want to take a moment and just thank you all for tuning in to the first episode with Kieran. It was, this is a somewhat scary thing to launch. You're putting yourself out there. You're hoping people are interested in some of the stories and the people that we're going to bring forward, which I know I am, but I'm biased. I love all these people very much, and I think we have a lot of interesting stories to tell amongst each other and with each other throughout the world. So I really do look forward to this project and the future that it holds. Today marks our second episode. Whoop, whoop. And this was our first episode that we did basically on the road. So it created its own set of kind of technical issues, and I had a big learning curve, but I'm very proud of how it turned out, and I am pretty excited to try this again when I head over to Italy and into France next month. So we're gonna do a lot of intercontinent sort of work. We'll start with some folks that are here local in the region here in Michigan and within Zingerman's, and then also potentially some surrounding areas, and then, sprinkle in some folks that I'm traveling with. So that's pretty exciting. So today I have an incredibly talented guest on who was gracious and kind to give me her time because she is an incredibly busy woman. Her name is Juli Carrique, and I asked her to pronounce her last name because this is going to be a challenge during these programs. I'm working with a lot of folks from all over the world, and while I do my best to honor and give respect to their names, sometimes I'm just not great at it. So, but she was so kind to be on the podcast with us and to say yes and take time out of her busy schedule. So she is a pretty well-known som in Copenhagen. Now a new wine bar owner, Bar Vitrine, which is a beloved, it basically launched and all of the city fell in love with it for good reason. Her chef is kicking out some really, truly incredible foods, and the wine list is just spectacular. So she's leading that ship. It's really great. She is still the head som at Barabba. No, not Barbara, Barabba. Sometimes I just think I'm a little too Italian, although it is an Italian restaurant. She has been there for quite a long time and has been in Copenhagen for 8 years. So you'll learn her story. She's super fascinating, grew up in Argentina, born and raised, and then basically we're going to follow her story of up till now, which is making her way in Copenhagen. She's worked at some of the finest restaurants in the world, and I love telling stories through wine and, how it connects people with place and allows your scope and your horizon to broaden. And she's just, she really is one of those people, I think, that emanates sort of the idea of what we're trying to do here on the podcast, which is strong, independent, super cool people following their dreams, doing really great things, and making huge impacts on their community. So again, we're going to talk about her path, her inspirations, the wine that gets her excited right now, and of course, we'll dig into what it really means when something tastes like somewhere. So I can't wait for you all to meet her and hear all the fun stories she has about her career and her path. So without further ado, here is our chat with myself and Juli. All right, well, welcome to the Taste Like Somewhere podcast. Today I have a new friend, actually, living here in Copenhagen, named Juli, and I will let you pronounce your last name.
Carrique.
Who came here by way of Argentina.
Yes.
So I want to thank you so much for taking the time today to come.
Very nice.
Come and have a chat. as we know, I like to talk to strong women who are doing really great things, and you've made your way in the wine scene and in the whole scene in general. And you're so kind. You were so kind when we all met you at the bar, and it was just so lovely. So, Julie, welcome again. Thank you. Why don't we take a moment and you can introduce yourself and your work that you do.
So I'm a trained sommelier, also chef. That's a little bit back in my in my working line, but it's there. I'm based now currently in Copenhagen. It's been for the last 8 years, and I was born and raised in Argentina. That's where I did also like almost 10 years of experience in between kitchen and front of house and sommelier, wine related stuff. And then I did 1 year in France. And
Where in France?
South of France. It's a very, very small village that is called Menton. It's actually the last village before Italian border, which was like a
nice,
huge experience because apart from being like a huge restaurant, it's also my first experience with European wines and foreign wines. So I only had like amazing memories about that moment. Right after I came to Denmark, I did a bit of like Singaporean trip during COVID times, because why not?
You're like, well, I gotta do something.
And of course, Copenhagen opened the doors into like natural wine, so that's definitely my focus right now. Even though I do have a very traditional background, dividing between my working years of Argentina and also France. But yeah, I'm also a food lover in general, like not in the Instagram way, but in the proper way of, or what I think is a proper way of, more like the communication and like really the overviewing of not just like wine as what it is inside of a glass, but like the whole thing of communicating like the food and like the service and like also the relationship with like people and wine as a cultural thing. Like that's, I think, always is kind of my thing.
Me too. It's the story behind it that really makes the difference. Because I mean, people can make all kinds of things, and it doesn't matter without I mean, it does matter, but the story is really where it's at.
And I feel like also like if I've seen like my way through the industry and also maybe what other friends or colleagues have done, I always feel like, well, for some reasons I kind of escape maybe also laziness, like they kind of like very straight sommelier that will know all the little appellations and these kind of things, and they will know the last thing, and I'm like, how is wine feeling? You know, like not about the feeling of the wine. I'm not like that kind of, but like, it's more like where is this wine standing? What is like, what is the kind of like this winemaker doing? Like, what do the guests? How do the guests react when they drink this wine? How is like, for me, it's more like always been like more like the bigger picture of like how wine is in our culture and in our tables. And I always feel like with little things that I've been doing through my career, like with a little bit of the Monday newspaper, I can see that it's like, oh, there was a line there.
Interesting. Okay, so you said you were classically trained.
Yeah.
But you were in the hospitality industry
since before even I finished high school.
Yeah.
Like my mother has this very funny story about myself that when I was 14 years old, I started like gathering, like spending a lot of time with a friend and also with her family that is still one of my best friends till now. And her family is origin is Argentina, is France, but based in Argentina. And they always had this like very straight culture with France and Argentina, like speaking French and like cooking a lot of French food and everything. So by spending a lot of weekends with them and everything, I was like, wow, so what a cool language and what a cool way of expressing yourself is cooking, and also talking about how other cultures and ingredients. And I was by still being very young, 14, 13 years old, was very amazed about that. And I was like, and we would spend long weekends cooking with this friend that is called Dominique.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved it. And I was like, I think I want to cook. And I also, already at home, we were cook a lot. Argentina is, it's a country that it was built by immigrants in a big part. And so our hugest culture when it comes to European countries is Italy, France, and Spain, which are three major countries that are highly related with food and comfort food and cooking at home. So I did grow up 100% on that environment. On top of that, Latin American culture is all about your mother giving you a warm plate of food, and the comfort.
Where in Argentina?
I grew up in south part of Buenos Aires. So we're still talking about Buenos Aires province or like state. But it's still further south because it's like 700 kilometers away from Buenos Aires city.
Oh, wow.
So it's really more like the northern part of Patagonia. You know, when Argentina does a little bit like this,
Yeah.
and it gets into like the Patagonia kind of geography, that's where I grew up.
Amazing.
And I always laugh and think that it's still for me a small city, but living now in Copenhagen.
You're like, wait a minute.
It's the same size of Copenhagen, actually.
Your city? Yeah.
So it's like around like 400,000 people.
Yeah.
And
Copenhagen's pretty small.
Yeah.
So I always the more time I spend here, the more I'm like, wow, this is a really small town.
Yeah, it's very, very.
I run into people I know on the streets, you know, and I
like I'm a local.
Yeah. Like I do not live here. I don't know how that's happening.
It's yeah. So I mean, I grew up there, spent like till I finished high school. I was there, and then I did almost like 10 years in Buenos Aires, and then France.
What made you decide to scoot to France?
Because so I was working, like studying a lot of, like I studied French when I was 14, and because I needed to do that, clearly, in my head. And my mother was like, well, delusional. It's fine. I'll approve.
I'll let you.
She's like,
allow it.
how long is going to last? 6 years in. She's like, well, that's a stubborn one.
I shouldn't have said yes.
She's like, okay. And so then I did that. I studied right after high school. I studied cooking school while I was still in my hometown. And in the meantime, I will just do like cakes for friends or my mother's friends, and then we'll just do that over the weekend. So I was like working already in that. I finished high school, and when I was studying cooking school, I started working in like catering. That it was crazy.
So a pastry chef.
And that was a little bit of a mixed pastry, and also like it was catering, but also like more like for big parties.
Cool.
It was crazy. Like we used to go on like quick trips and do like, I don't know, like wedding caterings and cook for like 100 people and work for like 25 hours.
Yeah, and then just collapse.
And then get the day after, like crazy stuff. And I mean, I was only 17.
Yeah, but youthful work and like the energy you gain from that is
it was crazy.
Wild, right?
And I was working with like, it's like a crazy story because like my hometown, Bahia Blanca, it has a very strong like military base. I mean, strong for a country that doesn't have much military forces, but like still. So of course, like a lot of those people, they cannot really make a living with just only the military wait, like a salary. So it's very, very normal that they will have a side job, and part of the side job is to be like a waiter or like something like that. So it would be me, 17 years old, working with like 50 years old, like military. So I go into probably a later topic of female in the industry. I grew a lot there. I can tell
I bet you did. Were there big, like what was some of the bigger challenges that you faced?
In that moment?
Yeah.
I felt like...
Because you're trying to assert yourself, right? You're trying to get established into an industry that is notoriously difficult, I think, to begin with.
I feel like feeling comfortable. Like my mother, my family, both my parents, I mean, I was in a very classic, you know, three sisters and mom, dad at home, like very classic. Like,
ooh, lots of feminine energy.
Yes.
I love it.
My strong dad.
Yeah. Good for him.
Handling all that.
I'm sure he loved it.
Yeah. I mean, he was the king of the house, I can tell you. But back in that specific, like kind of like work dynamic where I was underage and I was working with a very strong like male like culture, especially at one of those jobs. Then it was a company that was run by a female, so that was a little bit of a different story. But especially when I was handling with those people, like with those colleagues, it was really much about like me being all the time aware of like if I was feeling comfortable. My parents were never kind of the kind of parents that maybe I run into right now in Copenhagen that would be like, let's talk about drugs and sex and feminism. It's like that's not my story.
It was not mine either.
I was like
it was not spoken about.
No.
It was like, you go figure it out on your own. Please.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good luck.
But my mother, in a very subtle way, definitely avoiding confrontation or uncomfortable topic. I feel like she did something sort of like what I think a masterpiece in like, you know, like still like raising like 4 kids, 4 females. And that it was just like, you need to feel comfortable. And like if there's any party, any situation where you're feeling that that's not your place anymore, just give me a call. I'm gonna go and pick you up and I'm not gonna ask anything. I don't care how you got there. Why did you decide it was a good idea to be there? If you don't feel comfortable anymore, I got your back.
That's quite a progressive way of thinking. Like,
and it was something that for me was like, I mean, I was also, my parents were not the youngest of the group of my friends. So a lot of my friends were like, super outspoken with their parents. So in those years, it took me a long time to understand the message behind it. But I did 100% grow up with that. So I feel like, especially even my parents would not be like, how are you feeling about working with 50 years old, like military trained male?
Sure.
Like they would not even address that, even though they knew that that was a scenario. But they would always be very much aware that, are you feeling comfortable? Like in a very, again, extremely subtle way. And I feel like in a way I grew up with like not feeling like a victim or not feeling like I was in a different position. I just needed, and I wanted for myself to make it comfortable. I wanted to, and for me, the way of feeling comfortable is to feel equal. That to feel like I'm one more, and I'm one more. Yeah. Like, and I feel like even in that early stage where I'm thinking like, whew, that's a lot of males, a lot of male energy. And I was like, and I just feel like back in the days, and I was having fun. Yeah, but I was having fun also going just like some heated conversation saying, this is how we're going to do it. And I was like, I was 17, that's insane.
That is insane. But it's also a testament to your personality, I think.
But I felt like I was finding my way. And also by finding my way, I was avoiding a lot of those people. And I was also just, like completely ignoring a lot of these people because they wouldn't make me feel safe.
Sure.
But not by putting me on threat, but just like making me feel that part of what I felt like feeling comfortable was maybe conditioned. So I was like, well, that's not my place. So then I would just, some just a little bit confrontation, some just not, but just feel like finding my way to feel like, this is where I work and I need to make it feel comfortable.
And then when you moved to France, did you feel a big shift?
So I did a big experience in Buenos Aires, almost like 10 years in between some places where a little bit more like chill. And then I ended up working what it is today, the best restaurant in Buenos Aires. That is the only one that was awarded with 2 Michelin stars. So it was a pretty big change. And there was always like a lot of like still female energy in the front of house, a little bit less in the kitchen. The chef, the owner is a male, but always very much into like, oh, you guys are so much better. And I was like, yeah, we're basically organizing your life. Thank you for that. But they're like, Gonza, this, that. Like, did you call this? Yeah. And I'd be like, okay, then it's fine. Go.
Was your fine dining experience something that was gradual, or did you find yourself in that 2 Michelin and you were like, okay, now we're at a different level here?
I mean, my first job in like as a sommelier was still like a pretty nice place, but it was way more like, like low in the kind of like, let's say like gastronomy or culinary level. And then the more I got into wines and the more I got like into like wine tasting and, talking to others, some of whatever, I naturally feel detached from those places.
Right.
Because I still like talk to some of those like ex-colleagues from like those previous places, but it was all about going to work on Monday and talking about the football match and like talking about like other things that were definitely not related with anything that was happening in the cooling. They will not go out of restaurants. They will not like care about the wine or the food or the chef or any of the things that it was. Yeah, because I mean, and that's big part of the gastronomy as well.
Yeah.
And I also love those colleagues because in a lot of ways they also communicate and they also, but they don't live for it in a way of, like they don't need to go and discover the new upcoming chef. They don't need to taste the new release of that winery. They have the wine that they like and they know what they like. And
they're just going to do a good job at what they do.
Exactly, yes. But I felt like...
There is something to be said about that.
Yeah.
That is not my personality.
Exactly.
I'm an explorer.
But I also learned quite a lot while living in Argentina that, I mean, I grew up with my father. I feel like the first 5 kilos I ever lived in my life was going to my local wine store that was literally in the corner. It's still there in Bahia Blanca. I love the guys. I always go, when I go home, go and say hi, and they're like, oh my God.
Welcome back.
I was helping my father. It was a little bit more than 5 kilos because it was 5 liters of wine plus the glass container. And I wanted to be like the big girl. I'm the youngest one. I'd be like, I'm going to help you that. And then he would just grab those that we call damajuanas, not damajuan. And then that was the wine that he was drinking at home. Yeah. I grew up with that. Like that's my, and the more and more we talk about like, no, but it's not 2016, it's actually 17 the germ. And I love that. I mean, like we can spend the whole day doing that. But I also know that real wine and real food is way far away from that bubble. Like big part of Argentina is a huge wine producer, and like big part of what we produce as a wine country, it's drink maybe not 5 liters anymore, but I can tell you out of table wine. And that's what really the link with wine and food and people starts. And it's actually where, if for a lot of people, it's where actually like stays. And there's a beauty in it. When I go and have the barbecue with my friends,
way to think about
I'm
it.
like, I can drink a whole bottle of that. And now like it will be joy out of my. Then if we sit down and you're like, let's talk about that wine, I can send you a PDF of everything that is wrong with that wine. But in that moment, I don't need anything.
It doesn't matter.
And it's.
Well, I think that's telling about just the table in general. And sometimes it's like, it doesn't have to be. You can, I mean, an apple can give you the same experience, you know, humble and delicious. And it's about the company. It's about maybe a nostalgia.
Yeah.
You know?
But I feel like getting connected with all those things also helps you when communicating wine in an extremely fancy way.
Sure.
That you get like, by talking to guests or like, okay, which kind of grapes or wines or whatever, like you can get a little bit of like how to connect with them, because I still consider someone that still like has a joy of having that kind of like simple connection with food and with wine or beer or whatever, I don't care. And I feel like the more you detach yourself from that real scenario where food and wine and drinks and people and community get along, when you detach yourself from that, then it gets for me, it gets very hard. Like, and also you put yourself as, let's say, sommelier or someone that communicates in such a crazy way or such a crazy place where people are like, yeah, but you don't drink these wines anymore. Like, yeah, I do. Yeah. And I still really enjoy them. And I feel like when not maybe that you need to tell those guys every day, like I do this or I go for a beer at the bar. Like it's not that you need to do that as your way of, but there's so much that you can hold if you keep on thinking that that's also a big part of what happens in every people's life all the time, and how that's one of the nature of the hospitality. When you keep an eye on those things, then it's so much easier to also keep on understanding the other things that become way more fancy and way more, you know, like different level. So going over to France, I moved to France because I was that place in Buenos Aires was amazing, but Argentina has this very like weird thing when it comes into wines, that we have a very protectionist like way of commercializing wine. So all the wines that is drink in Argentina, 99% is produced in Argentina in order to protect our national industry. So all that it comes from abroad is insanely pricey and just barely weirdly chosen, because sometimes you ended up having it just because it's not because those are the wines that are like good or whatever, just because like there's a company that can bring it, or maybe the company that also has a house in Argentina is allowed to bring because of the import policies. So you end up having some things that maybe some they don't make sense, and they are 3 times the price that you will pay in Copenhagen, real.
Wow.
So it's just insane. So
which is saying a lot.
Oh my God.
Because Copenhagen is not cheap.
So then I was like, and then of course when you taste something that is like 3 times what you taste here, you're like, this is not that good.
Yes, yeah, you're like,
it's not that I love my country, but this is really not that good. I can buy a whole
shame. Do you think that's shifting in Argentina, or you don't think that's
it's shifting,
shift?
But yeah, it's shifting a little bit now. You can really get a few more things. There's also a lot of sommeliers, or in general, like people into hospitality that have been having the chance to maybe work abroad or travel a little bit more, and then to really start seeing the beauty of so many other wine regions, and be like, even if it will be expensive, people will have a blast by having the chance to maybe taste one of these bottles in their life in Argentina. Yeah. So little by little it's getting better. But as a sommelier, you never be like, I was like reading like Fleuris, and I was like, what is a Beaujolais? I never tasted like a made in my life.
Yeah. Well, no, so curiosity got the best of you in the end. And you're like, if I'm going to learn and grow more, you capped. Yeah. You know, you couldn't do any more in Buenos Aires, it sounds like.
Imagine like moving to, like I wanted actually when I spoke, I used to work in this restaurant, and the chef is Argentinian but based in France. And then I was like, I just want an internship. I was like, let's be honest, guys. I cannot work in a French. I don't know any of these wines. It's not just like one or two.
Yeah.
Any of these wines.
Yeah. How fun.
I was like, I've seen some pictures.
Yeah. I've heard tell. Yeah. But it had to be super exciting and really
I was
fun.
in
I bet your taste
Disneyland.
buds were just like, what is happening?
I was like,
like the first time you tasted like a Shiraz wine. Like,
Yeah.
I bet you.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but I also like even I mean, there was a Italian border, so we had of course a lot of French wines, and we have a lot of. But I would just be like, I was like, oh my God, my brain is gonna, apart from like French accents and all that. I was like, getting home and be like, oh my God.
Yeah, like I'm exhausted on a different level.
These are sort of like a face mask, but for the brain that I can put it in when I get to bed. And so I was working there like for a year, and it was amazing. I mean, it was as insane as a Michelin French restaurant can be, or at least 10 years ago.
Wild.
Like it's getting better. But it was very intense, and professionally, it was just like, I was like, I don't know if I can be a sponge, but I'm trying to be as much as I can. And it was so much information, and like working with like amazing people and amazing product. That restaurant is pretty much driving also into a lot of products. The chef Mauro Colagreco, he's like very passionate about like he has a massive garden, so he's
Awesome.
also like this like kind of person that it will just like we will be like in the upper room, that is where the dining room is, and then he'll be like, no, but look at this, and I'll be like, what's happening? And then I will just go downstairs, and he would just be like cutting a tomato, be like, like,
It's like this tomato.
yeah. And then it would just be like, if we just do this, and then like, or whatever, like a simple thing, and like he's really like in the pure of expression, passionate about like about products, and even during those years where he was still like pretty renowned and everything, he would still be like, I understand maybe some guests will struggle with this, but like we need to stick into what we believe in, and we need to maybe just try to find a different way to communicate it, and maybe take it in a very different scenario. I felt like for a lot of ways, like trying to stick into what you believe in. For example, now moving into like in Copenhagen, moving into like communicating like maybe wines that are made with a more like like natural approach, or a different like philosophy, clearly comparing to the classical market. I feel like there's a lot of learning that there's when it comes into that is like, of course, like, yeah, you don't want to disappoint a guest that made a booking like 3 months ago, or a guest that clearly knows about food or drinks or whatever, because he's been traveling and eating and this and that. You don't want to make them upset. You don't want to make them upset or think that they don't understand anything. But there's still a beauty into like maybe just trying a different way to really communicate what you believe in, which again doesn't need to like get all the audiences or win all the guests. But I feel like there was a lot of beauty that I learned in that place, apart from all the wines, that it was about like that kind of like sticking into like there needs to be something if you believe so deeply into it.
It's like a balance between education and also de-educating people.
Yeah.
Because I think what happens is consumers, sorry, we have the door open, so hopefully it's all good, but we have consumers that, and I'm going to speak primarily to Americans at this point, because I serve a lot of wines to a lot of Americans, and they're always just like, when it's maybe a new grape or a new style, and they're just grasping for something that's familiar.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, you guys, it's okay for you not to know what this is.
Yeah.
And to experience it for what it is, and to like ponder that for a minute.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of the more exciting things I think about especially the natural wine scene, because you've got things going on now. We all know that there's a wide spectrum of quality out there. So, what was the shift for you from classical to natural?
So I always felt like, I mean, when I was in Argentina, there was one of the first like wineries that for me was very amazing. And it was amazing because it's actually funny, because one of the owners and the winemaker is actually Danish. back in Argentina, and I felt
a
like it
small
was
world.
yeah, exactly. And it's one of the wines that I remember that I was like extremely amazed by it. I was like, oh my god, for two different reasons. There's like two different wineries that were almost built at the same time, took over some old vineyards in the southern part of Argentina, and what they did was basically like to start making these two separate wineries. One that it was only focused on Malbec, which it was very interesting to have maybe like a different expression, like geographically speaking,
Sure.
about a grape that clearly we all knew.
Yes.
And the second one, which I mean, again, they have some sort of like business connection, but it was very much divided from the other one. And on a clear customer point of view, they were not really aware that there was a link in between them. So there was a winery that was like from scratch, be like, okay, this is what we do. And it was a winery that had back at the beginning only two grapes, which was Pinot Noir and Merlot. Mm-hmm. No Malbec, which I was like, I like this.
Yeah, like you're wild already, like bucking the trends.
Yeah. And for me, like still that Malbec, Noemia is one of my favorites Malbec. And the Pinot Noirs, now that winery, the second one, which is called Chakra, is a winery that has expanded a little bit more their portfolio. They took away Merlot, which I was always been very much against, for clear commercial reasons of not being able to anybody sell any Merlot lately. And they took it out, and they have like this amazing Chardonnay in production and some other grapes. But back in the days, it was super interesting that I always was like, oh my God, what is happening with this wine? And then like getting into knowing them and like tasting wines and going to trips and visit them. Very like quickly I went into the detail that they were going this like very hardcore biodynamic, and I was like, wow. Yeah. And I also remember Hans, that is a winemaker and one of the owners from Noemia, getting extremely upset with one of the things that I still really keep in my way of communicating and also understanding and reflecting upon what I'm not super fan of calling, but let's say natural wine. That this guy was like, one time, this was probably 2014, 13, I don't know, 14 probably. I remember him saying like, I swear God, I don't want to talk about biodynamics anymore. You sommeliers really make me so upset with your questions. It's just like, I just hope I can take everything that gives anybody a little clue or hint that this is any close to bio. Imagine like talking about biodynamic for wine, for winemaking. For Argentina is extremely like, like traditional country.
Sure.
We had this intense French, also American kind of trend that hit us during the late 90s, where it also was pushed by a very intense like economy questionable boost of also the wine industry, with a lot of like, let's bring new barrels of oak and this and that, and there was like a lot of this thing happening. And this guy was trying to sell wine made in biodynamic way, aged in concrete eggs, and people were at the price of the other ones, and and then the people were just losing it.
They were like, we don't get it, we don't understand it.
And they were so critical towards him, and it was not even coming out of the, but wait, listen, like it was just more about like, do you dress like a witch to go around the vineyards, And of course, this guy just, it was also a thing.
Like, this is just the right thing to do.
So I still remember, and the reason why I feel like I hold like, and not that I hold into that, but I feel like I really reflect like quite often about that. And it's something that like eventually I even talk to some guests, that is like, I'm always socially so curious about why a lot of the industry, of course more traditional industry or more like classic winemaking approach, will just keep on like putting the natural wine, the organic producer, the biodynamic producer, the what a holistic, whatever you want to call it, like, under the microscope, like, what are you doing? It's like, guys, the people that should be answering the question are the other guys.
Yeah.
The people in the supermarket, the people putting more than 150 additives approved by European community into their bottles, those are the ones that should be asking the questions.
Yeah.
You should be the one that is like, what is your wine called again?
Yeah.
Like, like, would you describe it as natural wine? This is wine, period.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. Like, so I feel like that his way of like saying it for me, it really got me, because I was like, oh my God. And I also feel like for a lot of the winemakers that I communicate and that I drink and I enjoy and I love, I always feel like, give them a break. They're
Seriously,
trying to do
give
something
them a break.
good.
Yeah.
Are they perfect? Do you need to drink it? First, no. Also, no. But just give them a break.
Yeah.
You know, and especially if you're not also harassing the other ones. If you'll be harassing both, maybe.
There's
but
a lot
you're
to
not.
be said about what you just mentioned, just in the industry in general, and it's just like, guys, stop nitpicking everything everybody is doing.
Exactly.
Let people do what they feel good about. No one's forcing you to drink it.
Exactly.
If you
Thank
actually
God, more for
open
us.
your mind, right. And if you open your mind and think about and we could talk, I mean, I bet it feels different in this community.
Yeah, big time.
Outside of,
It is
because
easier,
they are more open to it, and it comes from a less of a I think less of kind of a hipster trendy sort of standpoint, and more really about true sustainability and what is right for the future of our planet and our industry. The Taste Like Somewhere podcast is brought to you by Zingerman's Food Tours, where we've been connecting curious travelers to the world's most delicious places, one bite at a time.
I'm also not sure that if I'm like that against a trendy hipster, we need to start somewhere. And if that's the way, best take it.
Yeah. I'm not really against it either, but...
And as I'm just like, tell the guests, like, if I give you an organic tomato, and one that is wrapped in 10 layers of plastic from the supermarket that and I know.
Yeah. Like, come on.
What are you going to choose? And it's like, why are you so drastically different on the way of choosing what you're putting into your body when it comes to natural wine? And why you're just, putting all these wines that are produced in such a different way, because you have the organic producer or the organic farmer that adds maybe a little bit of something into their wine. Maybe the winemaker that is still going to do such a clean, work in their farm and everything. And it will still, follow that into the winery. But then he's like, I need to maybe just filter a little bit or put some sulfur, whatever. So there's such a huge diversity in what someone decided to be like, those natural guys. And so, you probably had maybe one experience, but I can also tell you, I had a lot of bad experiences with conventional wine. And not because of that, I was like, I'm not drinking this anymore.
Yeah.
That's apart from unfair, it's like, what?
Yeah, it's all
it makes no sense
level.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's like there's so many different layers and ways into getting into a wine that is properly made, is better for your health, and is just something that it's more pure, and that for sure will have a better energy, and for sure will have something that is more personal for you getting as a result. And maybe it's not that one, maybe not that one, maybe it will be the next one. But I feel like I don't know, I always try to be like give it a chance, you know? For sure you will find something that you like. And
do you think that the consumerism, on a larger scale outside of, let's say, the hipster sort of trendy moment, is changing?
I think it is changing. I feel like, as you mentioned, Copenhagen, I feel like it always had
you are in a little bit of the bubble here, for sure. Yeah. It's like Paris in that way.
But I feel like Copenhagen, maybe in a different approach from what I can see when I go to Paris, and I go there quite often. But I feel like it's a larger city, and fair enough. Of course, things are gonna be a little bit more diluted. I feel like Denmark, in a lot of ways, not only with the sustainability that you mentioned, that it is a big thing as well, and I feel like it does help to get guests or customers a little bit closer, or a little bit more curious about the idea, which is already a start, and again, I'll take it. But also I feel like in Copenhagen, which clearly is different from the rest of Denmark, and that we need to be realistic, because otherwise we're too much in a bubble.
It's true. Well, but a lot of tourists and people that come here, they don't leave Copenhagen.
Yeah, that's true.
They come here and they don't go out, which
this
I think
is
a shame.
Yeah.
And I do think that's playing into this game. A little bit.
Totally. But if you're thinking about only Copenhagen, at least what I experienced since I moved here, that it was 2018, is that you need to think that, okay, it's a society that has a deep culture with sustainability. You can find organic products even into the regular kiosk.
Yeah, it's amazing to me.
There's a lot of sensibility towards these things, and I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's maybe as deep as we see it in the magazine. I know all these like things or people that will be pointing out. I get it, but it is way deeper than in so many other cultures.
Yeah.
And I think that helps. Big time it helps. And it's very, very strange. And I do work in a restaurant, like both restaurants where I've been working here in Copenhagen, they were like massive. Like we could hold up to like, now maybe it's 120, and back in the day
And those were?
108 was the first place, and we could do up to 180, 200 guests per day. So of course there was a majority of tourists because I mean it was a restaurant that it was owned by Noma, so of course there was a lot of that attract like people. But like at the same time there was like a lot of guests that they didn't knew that Noma had the largest natural wine cellar, and they also, believe me, didn't care. So a lot of those guests, they were like, but still like they were like, well, we're not that familiar, but they still know what it is. They know that maybe in a like not super clear way, they're like, oh, if it's natural, if it's orange, maybe it's natural, like a little bit in a confused way. Let's maybe get some information here, but they were still not so like, oh, what is this? I haven't heard about it.
Sure.
So I feel like that really tells about a culture where that information, where these kind of things are not that much into the niche, and I think that's good.
Yeah.
I do believe still that.
And I think Noma had a lot of part to play in that.
100%.
Before I started coming here, I think I was sometimes in the camp of like giving Noma a bit of a hard time. And I will not do that anymore because I've never witnessed a group of talent that has changed a culture so deeply in the food scene and in the wine scene. But like it's astonishing. It has changed a
and
culture.
I know it gets, I mean, if I need to put like a thing in levels, like Noma would always be like recognized for the change that they have done into the food, and by food I mean recipes and food, the chef stuff.
And actually bring Danes back to the Danish Nordic sort of path that they got away from.
But I also in a very, like bold way. I feel like it was something compared to what happened in Spain, like back in the days, like it was kind of like, whoa, this is just different. Like we had never seen this before.
Yeah.
And also it was doing that by also like bringing up a lot of their culture together, which I mean twice better,
Yeah.
But apart from that, I feel like also the work that they've done with the wines is beautiful, and something that I don't think is much like like appreciated for the things that they've done is also the service. Like,
and it's so subtly beautiful. It does not feel like other Michelins that are like, just to me, I have no interest. Like Noma was still very approachable, but very subtle, very beautiful service.
Yeah. But it's something that you can see in a lot of restaurants here in town. The chef serving guests. Like, and I know it sounds something as like, well, probably front of house is so behind that the chefs need to run the food. It's like, you can also take it that simple way or in that simple approach, but there's so much beauty on it. There's so much like, like the chefs like getting to the table.
Like, this is my dish. I'm going to tell you about it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but also
so
interacting
lovely.
with the guests. The guests being like, more familiar with interaction with whoever made that food or whoever is like behind the other side, which they never get to see. There's so many layers into that I always think that is so beautiful, apart from the food and the wine scene, that I don't feel like it gets like that like recognized. And I think it's great. It's one of the things that I love most about like, I would say like Danish hospitality. That is like, I feel like that a very huge link in between, like a crack in between, like front of house and back of house, for different reasons. It just gets a little bit more like blurred, and I think it's amazing.
Thank
God,
also
because for the guests.
It should be that way, really. And I don't think that the culture of front of the house, back of the house is a healthy one.
Yeah,
the us versus them sort of situation. It's not good. I do think it's changing. But boy, it's a slow road to hoe because people are ingrained about like there's almost a privilege thing there, which is highly annoying. But I think that in the last 20 years, right, things have changed because you've got chefs now. You've got the celebrity chefs, which are bringing out some, which is annoying in its own way, but also kind of like, I think it's had some positive impact for sure.
Yeah.
I just want to see more women out there personally.
Yeah.
But
we'll get there.
It's coming.
It's coming. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about what you are doing here in Copenhagen, because
Yeah.
I know that at this point you probably have to go like relatively soon. But what? Okay, so you're working, you own a place and you're a som.
Working, yes.
So let's talk about those two places. Because...
So it's been almost 4 years that I'm working as sommelier and manager at Barabba. That is an Italian-ish restaurant, as we like to call it.
Danish Italian, Nordic Italian,
something Italian. Not you, you know, like it's also almost like a legal technique in order to just refuse some of the complaints of you know, like disappointed guests of where is the pizza or the pasta pomodoro.
Yeah.
Like it's ish.
Yes,
so.
Ish. It's ish factor. Like you're in Copenhagen, relax.
Yeah. which is apart from, I mean, it's always a place that I've been going to since I moved to Denmark, so it was almost like a natural, like, oh, now I'm here.
Yeah.
On the other side of the bar. It's a great place to work because it allowed me to move from like a huge cellar as 108 that it was literally like right next to Noma cellar, so we had a lot of fun in that place. It allowed me to move into a place that it was way like smaller on scale, also way more informal in a way, even though 108 was already like a very chill like approach when it came into the guests and everything. But Barabba has, you know, its own way, but it's still like, even though when you normally professionally to do this kind of like, well, now I'm ready to have something that is a tiny bit smaller and with a little bit more of a, you know, like a smaller front of house team and all these things. When you're trying to do those kind of changes, a lot of the times you end up resigning in the sommelier kind of point of view. Well, I'm going to have a smaller cellar. I'm going to have maybe a different budget or these kind of things, which of course, due to the size, the budget is smaller. But I'm extremely spoiled. Like I'm lucky enough that I work for Ricardo, that is the owner of Barabba, and he's also sommelier. So he's the one that is like, oh my God, Julie, this month we're gonna definitely, like, we need to put down this budget. Like this stock take is just getting way out of control.
and then he's like, but there's these.
Have you seen the allocation? I talked to the guys and then I ordered this, or like not even be like, someone called me and it's like, oh, we got the delivery. I'm like, who?
Yeah, you're like.
I was like, I didn't order, and they're like, yeah, I spoke with Ricardo, and I was like. So like, you know, which is like, great, let's do it. And
I love it.
you know, that kind of idea of like actually teaching me how to run an extremely healthy business and how like understanding, and also is one of the things that I love of like this kind of next step that I have done into like the industry. That is definitely something that Copenhagen gave me as a treat, that is to be able not only to be a sommelier or someone that works and like service and so on, but also to go a little bit deeper into that layer, saying, okay, like, yeah, we need to start pushing and we need to keep on pushing on, you know, like working in more like healthy environments, doing this and then that, but also we need to start like, you know, communicating and understanding that probably we're not gonna be able to do any of those other things if the hospitality industry keeps on being this, you know, like never profitable situation, never, you know, like stable, going bankrupt maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after, who knows, you know. So like not understanding restaurants as a company, it's just been a huge cancer ever for this industry. And not even like as soon as you start talking about that, you're like, oh, you pig, you know.
Which is a shame.
Which is like, you lost the passion for... No.
It's a business in the
We're
end,
just looking
guys.
like
We
idiots.
just weren't taught.
Sorry for the expression.
A lot of people weren't taught how to be good business people.
Exactly.
You start in it because you're passionate. Maybe it's about that tomato. Maybe it's about that bottle of wine. It doesn't matter, but none of it counts if you can't make a business run out of it. And people that get grumpy about that piss me off. Because it's like, come on, everybody's trying to... What's the difference between a dentist or a doctor or, you know, someone trying to run, you know, we have...
Exactly.
This is a noble occupation.
Exactly.
Let's give it
big time
everything that it deserves.
We can, but also we cannot ask for... I cannot ask for my guests to be respectful to what I'm doing if clearly I'm not the first one respecting what I'm doing.
Exactly.
You know, but respecting in the big chain. Respecting towards like... No, sorry, I don't want a supplier to call me on my day off because I'm not calling you my guests on whatever random hours. Like, I don't want, like, you know, like in all the leave, I want to have my boss to be able to sit down with me and talk about my wage, or like, you know, like I wanna have as any other, or not anybody, because I'm not gonna be, you know, like unrealistic, but a lot of other people in other industries who have the freedom to talk about these things, because that's only healthy, and that's only the way we're gonna start, you know, like healing these things and getting into being a serious industry where real people wanna invest, where real people wanna, you know, like be part of it. And they can make
real careers.
And they understand what is happening, because we just keep on like, you know, building generations, very short generations of like if you run into someone that has been doing this for 10 years, like just give them a hug.
Yeah, for sure. They deserve it.
Most of them, they're just gonna, you know, like touch the 30s and be like, well, that was alright and it was fun, see you. Yeah. And then that person is just starting to be able to maybe teach someone something, or to be, you know, to be productive, to be like this was my experience and it was bad, let's just change this. And when we're starting to get there, those people, they leave, big part of them. So then we're just like, you know, our learning process is kind of like we just keep on bumping into the same wall. Yeah. Because a few of them, very little of them, they know that the wall is there. Yeah. So it's, you know, it's like our curve, like you can see it in a lot of things, you know, like so many other industries, they have like loads of, you know, like books and this and that, and we're just like,
yeah, I was lucky.
Here's a paper.
I was lucky to be. I fell into Zingerman's in a really like a profound point in my life, which is what the organization that I'm a part of. But we highly value 3 bottom lines: service, food, and finance. Yeah, and they're all equal. Now, sometimes you have to take a financial hit in honor of service, but it's all a balance, right? Yeah. But we taught that. We taught people open book management. We taught people how to run proper budgeting, how to purchase things and run balance sheets, and that is just not something that this industry usually does. First of all, it's not very transparent. No. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like that. But I feel like it's not very transparent because there hasn't been like there's something that we don't talk about it. Mm-hmm. So not talking about things, not feeling entitled to ask questions also brings into more non-transparency. Right. And I feel like Barabba is a place that has, apart from all the amazing bottles and amazing people and the best guests ever, and all the fun that I am still having in that place.
So great. I love it when you're having fun at work. It's so
cool. My boyfriend always tells me that I get paid to have fun with guests.
We have really cool jobs.
Don't tell people.
Yeah. And, well, you get to create experiences for people. What a privilege.
Yeah, it's great.
It's so cool. Yeah. It's the coolest.
Yeah. So I feel like that's one of like the most beautiful thing. And then last year, at the end of the year, with a guest of Barabba, that is Niels.
With a guest?
Yeah, because we have this beautiful, amazing human being that is called Niels. He owns an amazing design company that's called Frama, here based in Copenhagen. And he used to go a lot to Barabba with friends and bring like people visiting, and he would just come like, do you have a table for 8? I was like, of course.
I love it.
And then he came one time and then reached Ricardo saying, hey, I have this, like, someone offered me like this little shop that looks super cool, and I think we can do something amazing and maybe a wine bar, but I don't know anything about this. And I thought about you guys. And so, yeah, last year, towards the end of the year, we opened Bar Vitrine.
Yeah, it's such a great place.
Yes.
And everyone's talking about it. That's the fun part. People are really excited.
And our idea was always to, like, also because we just also talking with guests, be like, okay, we want to send people when they ask for recommendations to the places that we will go to. Yeah. Like, for me, that's I will, even if it's a friend's place and I don't go there for X reason, I'm never going to send someone there. Yeah. Like, it's like, I don't care if other people talk highly, or if they did and people that I really trust talk highly, they'll be like, I haven't been, but. And so then we were like, okay, definitely we want a wine bar. We have like definitely way too much wine accumulated in this restaurant. And then what did we do? We buy more wine.
Yeah, of course. It's never going to change. I'm sorry.
And
it will always be the first and last thing.
It's like we got a great excuse to buy more wine. So let's rent another cellar. And that's how we are. So the idea of Bar Vitrine was always to have this place where wine was the major focus, but also to be like, okay, can we just please get a place in town? Like, and I also feel like that. It's like you need to build a place where you're gonna go, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And also, but I don't wanna do like a, like a cash machine that maybe some guests will like this. It's like, no, we want a place where we can drink wines that we like, and that we think that are great, but also that we can eat food.
Yeah.
In a small place, in almost.
I still think of that empanada I had the first time I was there. I was like, oh my God.
But it's like we wanna, and then D3 came on board, and she just like does magic in that like tiny kitchen that she loves. She's like, don't take me away from here, and she really got that vibe because. As a chef as she is, like, like a lot of people will be like, I need a restaurant. Yeah. And, like, or I need a big name on top of, like what I'm doing. And I feel like she took it in a way that she really got it. And I feel like that's the beauty why she's doing such a great job and why people are actually talking about the food, which is amazing because, like you can just go there and you can really spend the whole day, because that was also the limitation that a lot of wine bars we feel that they have. That is like, there's only an amount of cheese and anchovies and nuts that you can eat.
Yeah.
Or
and
you should at least.
Proper, delicious, beautiful food.
And then you have food that is like, it's about the product. It's food that, it's tasty and everything, but it's food that is good. Yeah. Like, it's a proper piece of fish, it's a proper bit of veggies, like, and we try to like, of course, like understand the market in the sense of, like, okay, we need to have vegetarian dishes. We need to have like things that are also in within the culture where we are, because it's also a place that is in this very magnetic neighborhood that is surrounded by a lot of the local, that live within the 3 blocks.
I was sitting there the other day and I was just thinking about the 4 corners and how different architecturally all 4 corners are and how fun it's amazing. It's really...
And we're really not that far away from Barabba, right? But I really very feel close, like it's actually. Like something happening there.
Yeah, it's an easy, 10-minute walk?
We still remember when we were like not even close to open. Like there was literally like, those construction bags, like the heavy plastic things where they put like whatever concrete or leftovers. So the place was empty. There was like half a wall like hanging and like this hole that we were trying to do. And that box over there, that bag over there. And then people would just like open the door and be like, what are you guys opening? Oh, wine bar. It's looking amazing. I was like,
cute.
And then the neighbors, like they like Havra, the guys from April, that are both amazing coffee shops that we have nearby. They would just bring coffee all the time. Like, amazing. Hey guys, we saw you were here, so we're bringing some coffee. Like, you're getting there. I was like, still no, but we appreciate it.
Thanks for the encouragement, guys.
I think like, we love you guys.
That's the special part about the energy here in Copenhagen. It really is a really special place, and I don't know how to relay that to people enough, because it really does need to be experienced on their own. So.
And we also felt like with Vitrine that going back into something you asked me earlier that I don't think I fully replied, that we felt like when we were talking, even though I'm not in charge of the wine list, when we were talking about how we were looking at that place when it came into like the wines or the things that we wanted to do, we also felt like there is a change in the way a lot of even us are consuming wine these days. I feel like, of course, you need to think that I do believe that people are tending to drink less.
They for sure are
being way much aware of what they're drinking, and not in the sense of like, well, now I'm only gonna go hyper fancy, but be like, I'm expecting more from the wine. Like I want that
higher
to be
expectations.
Yes, but also not in the please blew my mind, but also in the way of like, maybe I'm just gonna have 1, 2 glasses of wine a week, and I just wanna, like be in a place where I really like it, where I feel comfortable, where I'm having a great time. I feel like maybe it's just me getting old, but like I feel like there was a moment where it was just more this like, teenager kind of like, everything. And then I feel like a lot of the guests, or at least the ones that I run into, they have come into a place where it's more like, well, I don't want that anymore. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if it's like, I still want my, whatever, like 100 corona a glass of wine, which let's talk in US will be around 12 US more or less. Like, I want those like $20 to be like, to to give me something, you know, and it's gonna be that glass. I'm not gonna have that and then order a bottle and then go for beers afterwards. I'm gonna have that glass, chatting with my friend, and I want it, you know, like to get
but I
something.
want it to be quality,
you know?
and delicious and meaningful.
So I feel like there's like there's this approach towards like meaningful, like something that is like.
To me, that's really exciting because that means as consumers, there's a more thoughtful process into it, right? It's not about anyone can go out and grab a shitty pint. Or, you know, this I think is cultural here. I really do. I think it happens. I was going to say, oh, maybe in Paris too, but I don't think so. I don't think that they're really worried about the quality all the time of wine that they're going to have. Table wine's totally fine for them in some ways, which is also good. We just talked about that. There's a time and a place.
I do try to take a little bit of criticism automatically from me and for me. In the sense of like, and I do believe as an industry we should look at it in the sense that I think like maybe some things that you said like, well, maybe in Paris or like Copenhagen definitely went and like in a way we all experienced it or maybe did it in that we kind of abuse maybe is definitely a big word, but like we went too much into that kind of like, well, you know, like the guests, they don't know what is like, they don't understand, and you know, and then of course like in that kind of excitement also of how much passionate we were about it or how much we wanted to communicate this like little thing or this new project of this guy that we were really, you know, like super hype on with it, not saying it was on purpose, but because of different things we definitely got into what I think it was maybe a push of, you know, like not really always choosing quality, not always, and by quality maybe the wine was made beautifully, but maybe the wine was way too full of faults. And maybe instead of, you know, like saying, well, actually this wine has, talking about it specifically, maybe a touch of volatile that is a little bit high, but if you were looking for something, you know, like really on the refreshing approach, it can really match this. Or maybe with this kind of food, actually, because that's, let's be real, like this is something that can happen. But I feel like in a lot of ways, instead of having that conversation in which you're still communicating and you're giving tools to people to understand wine better, it was taking more from an attitude point of view, like you don't understand anything. I'm gonna teach you, this is good wine, you should drink it. And it's cloudy, and they're it's like, full of sediments. I don't like
how it tastes.
And it tastes beautifully farmy, and you should drink it, and it has a cool label.
Okay.
You know, and I feel like there's a little bit of that we should take into like, maybe we went too far. And maybe
I think you're right, but I think it's pulling back.
And I feel like between we were like, we understand that a lot of our guests are moving into that, and they are, you know, like directing the way they choose wine, and I see it as well as at Barabba. I love it. A lot of our guests, a lot of our guests that I remember serving back at 108. So I've been like serving and talking to them about wine for like 8 years, and I can see that, and I can see it myself. So we were like, okay, if we are doing it ourselves, it means that a lot of our guests are also moving in this direction, and it doesn't mean that we don't, you know, like want to communicate other producers that maybe still, you know, like go, because that's also nature, and it's also something that I will forever be, you know, extremely respectful. A lot of these families are risking their economies and their financial situation year after year, harvest after harvest, to be like, I still want to push not to add anything into my wine because that's what they believe. And I'm still happy to, as much as I can, retaste these wines and to be like, maybe this with this will be a great pairing, but we still need to communicate, or we still need to understand that if maybe a guest thinks that this is too aggressive, it's because he's noticing this into the wine. And he's right. And we can't just treat them that they're crazy and they don't understand what they're talking, because then it just leads into more confusion. And guess what? A lot of those guests, because I've seen that happening, they are like,
I'm done with
gonna grab a bottle of whatever the more conventional wine I can find, and then that's it. You know, because they get frustrated because they don't understand what they're feeling with the wine, or what they are, you know, like what is their body reaction towards it. And I feel like the information is can only do good, you know, like also for the industry.
Alrighty, thanks again to Juli for coming in on this beautiful day here in Denmark, and for really giving us her time and energy. What a great introduction to our first out-of-town guests. So thank you for joining us on this episode of Taste Like Somewhere, brought to you by Zingerman's Food Tours. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your fellow flavor seekers. Want to taste the world with us in real life? Learn about more in our upcoming tours at zingermansfoodtours.com. I certainly would love to travel with you. And as we go on with this project, you will very much get to know the kind of people that we interact with, which is very much by design. Until next time, keep exploring, keep tasting, and remember, the best stories are the ones that you can savor. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week.